All right, welcome everybody to yet again another session of Civil Chat. If you're not familiar with Civil Chat, this is your chance to ask questions on anything Autodesk civil engineering related. It could be Civil 3D, it could be Map 3D, it could be AutoCAD if you want to. Could be InfraWorks, some of the storm and sanitary analysis, vehicle tracking, what's a subassembly composer, just about anything you want. I guarantee.
Revit topography. No, I'm joking.
It's a good thing I've got you here. Yeah, so the point is you guys ask questions and I do my best to answer them. I will guarantee that I will answer every question. It just might not be a very satisfying answer because sometimes I don't know isn't very satisfying. But I will do my best to answer them all. So when you do that, please put your questions in the question and answer panel. It makes it a lot easier for Brian and I to manage them. We can mark them as read or answer to queue them up, things like that. It just makes life a lot easier. Feel free to use the chat though. If you'd like, feel free to heckle us or comment on my stylish orange shirt or whatever it is that you would like to do. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But please make sure you put in questions. All right.
Now, I will say one thing: if you are using the chat and you don't want to, let everybody see you're chatting, there is at the very bottom of the chat, right above where you type.
Oh, yes.
You can send it to everyone or just to the hosts and panelists,
yeah,
or to an individual person. So if you want to heckle somebody individually, you can also send it that way.
Nice. So I always like to start off with just kind of a discussion about things. And recently, I've noticed I've had a couple of things going on. Let me share my screen. It usually helps. Screen 3, we'll go ahead and share that.
Depends on how comfortable you are with your talents on Civil 3D. You might not want to show the screen and just say, hey, look, I did it. It works. Trust me.
Yeah, when I first started doing demos at the Autodesk reseller, I had somebody from Autodesk there and I got done with my demo and I asked him how I did. And I was like brand new. And he's like, you did good, but when somebody asks a question, you can just answer it. You don't have to show them. That's the best piece of advice I've ever ignored.
Yes. I always love the ones, and when they ask you a question, but the software doesn't do it, you need to just skirt around that question. I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't work for Autodesk.
Yeah, no way. No way. I want people to know if the software can or can't do what it is they need it to do.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, they're never going to buy from me again. But they're never going to buy from me again because I don't sell it anymore. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got a surface. And what we're going to talk about this, to start off is smoothing contours. Dun, 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 dun. Right, as you can see, this surface is ugly. It's got all these angled points in it. And, it doesn't look pretty. And so what we have is we have the ability to smooth contours. So this is a property of the style of the surface. Now, what does the style do? It controls how the surface displays. It doesn't edit the data of the surface. It simply changes how it looks. So if I go edit this style, so I'm going to grab my surface here and I'm just going to go edit the surface style. We have the contours tab. And down here at the bottom, we have this section for contour smoothing. So I'll go ahead and expand that out. And I'm going to change this smooth contours from false to true. Right. And let's see, I think this defaults to add vertices. I've been playing around with this. And what I've got is you've got the slider down here. So you can control how smoothed your contours are. Well, I want really smooth contours. So I'm going to go ahead and max this sucker out. I'll select OK. And you can see my contours look much smoother. They don't have those angle points. They're smooth. They're pretty. Right. Basically, what I've done by smoothing the contours is I've sacrificed the accuracy of the contours relative to the model in order to make them look pretty. That's what I've done. This does not change the model. This changes the display of the contours. So when you're talking about smoothing contours, what's more important? That your contours accurately represent their surface, or is it more important that your contours look pretty? Right? There are situations where one might be good and the other might not be. So for example, if I'm, printing this out, I'm going to put it up on a poster to put in the hallway of the building where we're going to be selling this subdivision. I want it to look pretty. Accurate contours, not important there. When I'm doing design, my contours are a reflection into the model. And so as I'm doing design, I want my contours to accurately represent the model. One thing you have to be aware of when you smooth contours is, again, it distorts the contours to make them look pretty. And you might find yourself in situations like this, where you have contours that cross each other. All right, so you can see my purple contour coming in here. So that's my minor contour. And then my green contour is the major contour. And you can see they keep crossing each other. Contours never cross in a tin, right? A tin can only have one elevation for any spot. By definition, contours can't cross, but they've crossed. So if I were to export these contours out and send them off to somebody, you're giving them crap contours. Right. So this is another thing that you have to be aware of when you're smoothing contours. Yeah, Ian, I am on my favorite soapbox. I hate smooth contours. Right. So what can we do? Well, actually, before I'm going to talk about the alternatives, let's talk about smoothing contours and some of the options here. Right. So if I go back into the style. All right. So again, my smooth contours is set to true. Again, this slider controls how smooth they are. So if I set it about halfway and I select OK here, you can see they're not quite as smooth. So it's a little bit nicer, but whatever. All right. There is another option under here. So let me go ahead and max this back up again. If I expand out contour smoothing again, you can see that there are two options for how to smooth. There's add vertices and spline curve. What's the difference between them? Well, there is a very, very distinct difference between them. The difference is if I have this set to add vertices, I can adjust this slider. All right, I can adjust the slider back and forth. If I set this to spline curve, I can't adjust this slider. That's the only difference.
Now, does it matter where you left the slider before you switch from vertices to spline?
The difference is I can't change the smoothing factor. It still uses it. So whatever this is at, that's going to be the way it is. So if I set this as a spline curve and I hit OK here, right, you can see it smoothed it. If I go back and edit the style, and I change this to add vertices, well, here, let me just move this out of the way. When I hit apply, you'll notice none of the contours changed. And in fact, what I've done is I've extracted contours twice. So over here on the left, I had it set to add vertices. And over here on the right, I had it set to spline curve. Or maybe I did it the opposite way. There's no way to tell because they're exactly the same. Don't believe me? Let me go ahead and move one of these. So I got these little circles here just to identify where I need to move from, and I'll put them right on top of each other. And you can see there are no double lines here. And in fact, if I go into the map cleanup tools, and we'll select these. All right, so it found 28 objects. And if I use the delete duplicates cleanup action with a tolerance of 0. So the only way these two objects will be deleted is if they're exactly the same. When I finish this, you'll see down here at the command line that 14 objects were deleted. They're exactly the same. There is no difference between them except the ability to change the smoothing factor. Why are there two options? I have no clue. All right. So if I want my surface to look better, what do I do? So let me go ahead and set this surface style back to not smoothing contours. And I set that to false. So it's back to the nice angular contours. All right. What can I do? Well, I can smooth the surface. Oh, wait. I wanted to show something else here before I get to that. I'm going to smooth this again. I guess I could have just undone, huh? That probably would have been faster.
Yes, but we like watching you go through this process so much better.
I know, it's fun. Right, so this purple contour here, if I run the ID command and I snap nearest to it, oops, right, you can see that's elevation 189. Now, what happens if I put a spot elevation on it? All right, so I'm going to grab this, add labels, spot elevation, and I'm going to snap to this contour, which is an elevation 189. And you'll see that the elevation that I'm getting is 189.66. Why is that? Because I'm putting the spot elevation of the surface, not the contour. Smoothing contours doesn't change the surface. It simply makes the contours look pretty. And again, you're sacrificing the accuracy of the contours relative to the model in order to make them look pretty. So this is something else you have to be aware of. All right, so if I unsmooth this.
Yeah, Jennifer said it's good you're not just undoing because it would fatal error Civil 3D anyway.
You can see that spot elevation makes sense to be 189.66 if I don't smooth the contours. All right. So what do we do instead? Well, we've got the option to smooth the surface. So smoothing the surface actually edits the surface. It makes changes to the data of the surface. So this is a surface edit. So I'm going to grab my surface, choose edit surface, and I'm going to come down here and choose smooth surface. All right. There are two different methods. You have the natural neighbor interpolation and the Kriging method. So I'm going to choose natural neighbor interpolation. You can play around with them, find out which one works better for you. My output location, I'm going to do it based off of a grid. So what this is going to do is this is going to overlay a grid of points on the surface. And my output region, I can choose which part of the surface I want to smooth. I don't have to smooth the entire thing because where I have like sidewalk and curb and gutter and crown of the road, I don't want that to be smoothed. But over there where I have a landscaped area, I do want that area to be smoothed. So you can choose the output regions. So in this case, I'm just simply going to use surface. I'm going to do the entire thing. And then I have my grid spacing for the X and for the Y. Be careful with these values. Don't set them really small because you can end up with a lot of data. So this is a really small site. This is like a playground for a school, right? So this is a really small site. And if I set this to a grid spacing of X of 1, the Y of 1 as well, what you'll see is we're getting an additional 61,000 points added to this surface. All right, if I set this to 2 each, oops, you see we're getting 15,000. That's 4 times less because, you know, X and the Y, right? So I'm going to set it to 2 each. I'll select OK. And this is now smoothed the surface, not the contours, the surface. Right. And so you can see this is a one. Well, that just happened to be like right on that contour. That was not intended in any way, shape, or form. That was a great coincidence. Right. But if I were to move this onto this contour here, you can see it's exactly a 190. These contours are an exact representation of the surface itself. So what did this do? Well, let's go take a look. I'm going to go edit the style and I'm going to turn on the triangles. And you can see it's added a whole lot of triangles to this surface based off that 2x2 grid. That's why I say you got to be careful with this because you can end up with a lot of extra data. But the contours themselves aren't smooth. The other really nice thing about this is anywhere you actually had data in the surface, it preserves it. So you can see my break lines are still break lines. My points are still points. So there was a point there. That's why it's not on the perfect grid. So it preserves all the data for us. Any actual data that we have is preserved, which is cool. So that's the difference between smoothing a surface and smoothing contours. Now, I don't know what's going on here. For some reason, I'm getting some bogus triangles here. I have a boundary in here, but all I have to do is just go in my surface properties and tell that boundary, hey, I want you to be at the very bottom. And
See,
that
us
fixes
Revit users are just used to crap like that.
yeah. It's like, oh, I don't like all those triangles. I'll just move my boundary to fix it.
So Simon asked a question. I don't know if you even want to answer or you just want to, just want to kick him off because he's actually asking a legitimate question about smoothing the contours. So I think we should just kick him out because he's actually thinking it's a good idea. Does the file size increase when you smooth the contour, or is this just display purposes?
That's a great question. And it depends upon one setting, and that's your proxy graphics. So if your proxy graphics is turned on, when you save the drawing, it also saves a picture, so to speak, of the surface. And if you've got more vertices in your contours, then that proxy graphic is going to be larger. And so if proxy graphics is turned on, it will make it bigger. How much bigger? Probably, I don't know, not much, but it will make it bigger. If the proxy graphics is turned off, it shouldn't be noticeable.
And Adam had a note as well saying he's never used contour smoothing in the style either. Seen surveyors use it and it usually looks terrible on the curbs, which I believe is what you were saying.
Yep.
Desiree's like, oh, I got kicked out. Everybody or just me? Since she runs this Zoom meeting, thought I should respond. And then Justin said one thing he's noticed is that the surface sagged when he used smooth surface with the grid option.
Surface sags. So what the surface smoothing does is it basically says, okay, we're not going to do a linear interpolation between points. We're going to kind of do something different between the points rather than just a straight grade between them. So that might be what you're seeing with that sag. So you might have had a low point.
He followed up and said
when it comes down and then it continues down a little bit into a sag.
And he followed up saying when using the quick profile tool.
Yeah, so you're actually getting the surface. So my guess, like I said, what is happening, you might have had like a depression, right? And so so if you don't smooth, it comes down to the depression, and then there's an angle point that comes straight across. I don't know if you guys are watching my video or not. I'm using my hands to describe this. Right, comes straight. All right, let me sketch it. Right, so it comes straight down. So I'm doing a section here, over, and then up. Right, so that's what it's doing when you're not doing the surface smoothing. And let's continue this over. Let's do this like a channel, right? When you do the surface smoothing, it does something more like this. Right, kind of comes up, down this way, down over here, and I'm really apparently being really laggy here. Come on. All right, it comes down. And so it's doing something other than a straight grade. And so you get this bow sag down in the bottom. So I'm guessing that's what you're doing. Yeah, sketch command, I probably could have done that, but I suck at drawing with a mouse.
Did you need to add with a mouse to that, or just you suck at drawing?
And that too.
So Brent, I have a question. I have a question, follow-up question to this to ask you. How many people in your company are attempting to do this? Because you've really went on this rant page a lot in the last year and a half.
It's not so much people in my company that are doing it. It's files that we get from other people.
Got it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny because it's like, you probably know that it's not good to explode AutoCAD within Revit because I preach that all the time. I know it's not good to smooth contours in Civil 3D, even though I know nothing else about the product.
Yep.
So
and I've had people tell me, but this isn't what the surface is really doing out there on the site. And I'm like, and the other one is? Both of these are approximations of the surface. Deal with it.
And Jennifer said, you must be getting those files from Adam.
Ouch.
And Justin came in and said, to prevent the sag, he's used the random point options with smoothing the surface. You have to switch a couple of lines around, but generally works okay.
So I think what he's referring to here is if I go, come on.
And that does not work.
Surface.
And he says it doesn't work well
using
over
grid-based
road surfaces.
points. So yeah, I don't know. I've only just done the grid based. I haven't played around with the other ones. So.
And Simon says he has a laptop that actually has a touch screen. So when it comes time to draw on the screen, he touches the screen with his finger.
There you go. Yeah, I don't have one of those. All right. He said send them to a competitor that way.
Oh, so that's what Adam said. So that's why she said you're getting the files from Adam.
Ah.
All right. So I think that's enough of Brian's soapbox.
Yep. For now.
And the first question that came up was from Anonymous. And I think it came up because he knows you can't answer this. He or she knows you can't answer this. And what's new in Civil 3D?
What is new in Civil 3D 2023? Well, it hasn't been released yet. So anybody that tells you what's new doesn't know, and anybody that knows is not going to tell you.
Or if they tell you, they're going to get kicked off the beta forum, because that actually happened. That actually happened in the Revit. There were like 3 or 4 people who posted it like a week early, and they kicked them off the beta forum.
Yep.
So
people that know won't tell you. People that tell you don't know. They're speculating. So we're just going to have to wait until it comes out, and then we'll find out.
So the very real question, first question comes from Jennifer. What method do you use to link large Excel tables?
Well, so there's a couple of different methods for doing this. You could copy paste. So I've got an Excel file here. I was doing some pipe network stuff. So you could grab the data that you need, copy it, and then you can come into CAD and paste it.
But is that
and
really
this comes in
large,
as what's known as an OLE object.
Is that really a large Excel table?
It's not, but I'm just going over what we can do.
Okay.
All right. You could do a data link. So basically you do the same thing, right? You copy the data. And then in CAD, instead of just pasting, right, I'm going to right click clipboard, and I'm going to do a paste special. Paste special isn't here. Why is paste special not here? All right, let's go to the home tab. Paste special. I thought it was in the right click. And here you can do this as AutoCAD entities. All right, so when I do that, it comes in as an AutoCAD table. All right, so that's another option. Another option when you paste special is to do paste link as AutoCAD entities. And this will create a data link for you. So if you change the data in Excel, you can update the table in CAD just by saying update. All right, so this is now a data link table. So if I select it, you can see all the cells are locked. And if I were to go change the Excel file, this one would change as well. So those are the AutoCAD methods of bringing in Excel tables. We have some users here at GEI that are using an add-on program called Excel to CAD, and they swear by it. They love it. I personally haven't used it, but it supposedly takes the table the way it is in Excel and brings it into CAD and makes it look just like it is in Excel. So those are the methods that I know. As far as bringing large Excel tables in, I've never done it. I don't do it. I don't know why you would. But that's how you bring tables in. So I don't really have any advice for large ones because I don't ever use large ones. So sorry about that aspect of it, but that's how you bring, those are some options for bringing tables in. But check out that Excel to CAD. It might do what you need it to do.
So the only problem I have in the Revit world on any sort of Excel to Revit kind of scenario is, since Word, Office, all of the Windows-based programs use a point font, I can never get it to be the 330 seconds text I want it to be. Yeah. Right, so it's always bringing in some random text style. I mean, I don't know if AutoCAD does the same thing. It's like, oh, and then you've got to like go grab it and say, no, I really want you to use this text style.
Yeah, that might be where the OLE comes into play, because that's like an exact replication of the Excel file.
And Jennifer says they have been doing it the AutoCAD way, but they'll look into that add-in program. And Adam had followed up and said they removed the paste special on the right click a couple years ago. So yeah, it used to be there. Ridiculous. They just removed it.
Yeah, I don't know why they would do something like that. That's silly. Okay.
Okay, so the next question comes in from Sean. Would you please show how to import an image from Google Earth to come in at state plane coordinates? My instructions are not bringing the image in at the coordinates that I am looking for.
Would you please show how to import an image from Google Earth to come in at state plane coordinates? I don't know. I don't. So back in, what was it, 2013, you could import a Google Earth image. But they took that away because of legal issues, rights to the imagery, something like that. That's why they went with the Bing imagery, because Microsoft actually owns Bing imagery, whereas Google does not own the imagery for Google Earth. At least that's my understanding. So if I come in someplace, let's go to Four Corners. That's Four Corners. There we go. Because it's boring there. If you guys ever get the chance to go to the Four Corners, don't bother. It's in the middle of nowhere. And there's just some stands around it. But anyways, let's say I want to do this. I think I so rarely use Google Earth anymore.
I also love like that slight adjustment there, like it was coming down, like, oh no, that's not going to line up. Let's do a 40 little jog right there to make it line up properly.
All right. Yeah, Colorado has a couple of boundaries like that. There's, I'll show it later. Anyways, this is what I want to bring in. So the only way I know to do this is file, is it export or is it save? No, save image. And this just saves it as an image. I don't know where it saved it. And then you would just bring it into your CAD file and align it up. I don't know of a other way of doing it. Does anybody else know of a way to do that?
Adam has an alternate method. He says you can use XREFs to export imagery data that you can then bring into CAD.
You can use XREFs. That's how that's pronounced. Oh, you serious, Richard? Tommy? Oh, please. Oh, that okay. So plus N and then U. Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks, Dom. You rock.
You can explain what you typed in there?
Yeah, so if you're in a view that's not perfectly top down, because as you zoom in and zoom out, it kind of rotates you down like you're looking at it from like a helicopter rather than straight down, right? So if you know, right, so as I zoom in on this, you can see what it does is it starts to tip. So I'm not looking at it straight down. So I can actually come in here and say, hey, I want to look at it straight down. But what Tom said is if you're in Google Earth and you type N, just hit the N key, it sets it to north. And then if you do U, it sets it to straight down. So that's what it did.
Yeah, I didn't know the U trick. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And Brandon said press R in Google Earth. I don't know what that does. He just said press R.
There's both of them. That's even better. There you go, Tom. You learned something new too. Yeah, so if I'm at an angle and rotated, hitting R sets me straight, both of those. I wish it would just stay that way.
Yeah, but you're such a civil person. Architects would be like, I can't believe it stays this way.
Right. R. Ah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I don't use Google Earth a whole lot anymore. But yeah, as far as I know, it just saves an image and then you just need to bring it into CAD as if any other image. I don't know if Google Earth can export a geo-referenced image. If it can, then you would just bring it in as any other geo-referenced image. If it's not, you just got to bring it in as any other image. So
I wonder if you could do that like Open Maps or something too.
Yeah, it all depends on whether the image is geo-referenced.
Yeah, because Open Maps is the open source one for most add-in utilities. And I know there's other programs out there that will bring it all in based off of whatever coordinate system you choose. Yeah. So
I don't know if there's like an export. Not that I know of. You can enter flight simulator. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. So.
And then Ian says he uses raster design to align it, and then georeferences that file.
Yeah. So like I said, you would just do it however you would do it with any other non-georeferenced file. So.
And Paul and Corey both said use nearmap.
There you go. I'm not familiar with nearmap, but there you go. Go use nearmap.
And HECRAS has WMS servers built in for ArcGIS maps, Bing Satellite, Google, OpenStreets, and USGS.
Cool.
Cool. So I think we killed that one.
Yep, I think so.
So I'm gonna go.
I know that one was kind of a disappointing answer because I didn't have like a, oh, just do this for it, but I don't know of a way to just do that. Otherwise, I'd tell you.
So this can do the next question.
Before we do
Jackie.
that, real quick, another fun Colorado state boundary.
Well, and Adam pointed out that the Four Corners is actually not the Four Corners. The little monument they put up was surveyed wrong.
There we go. How's that for the boundary? That's the southern border of Colorado and northern border of New Mexico. It's a little jog in there. I'm sure that was a surveying mistake or something.
That was funny. Did you hear about the one thing? It was somewhere like in Scotland or something. There was like this big stone survey marker that had been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And some farmer was out there putting a fence and he's like, what is this? And he like picked it up, didn't know what it was, dug it up and moved it over like 6 feet, and it turned into like 30 years of lawsuits from like dividing countries.
Oh,
like
no.
It was the edge of the country. So I don't even remember what country it was. It was somewhere in Europe. And it was just like, so now like they're like all those things and it was all going crazy. It was like this big old argument because the farmer had done it like 50, 60, 70 years prior. So their whole huge surveying thing had to come out. It was actually quite interesting story.
Oh, wow. Yeah, fun state border fact. Colorado, I think it's Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming are the only states in the US that have all straight line segments. They don't follow any natural features.
Except for just those offset jogs. It was naturally screwed up by a human being.
Well, like this one follows a river.
Yes, no, I know.
Right. Things like that. New Mexico, maybe New Mexico is too. No, I think they follow something. They follow a river right down here.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah have all straight line segments for their borders.
Well, Hawaii would as well, since they have no borders. The absence of a border. Oh, thank you. Right. It was a Belgian farmer that moved to the France-Belgian border. Thank you for looking that up, Adam.
All right. Well, so we get on to the next one.
Alaska? Does Alaska, because it goes straight down, and or does it follow the river at some point in time?
I'm sure it does.
I was curious.
Yeah. Looks more like a mountain range.
Which ironically, I learned very recently that original part was not part of Alaska. Alaska went straight down, and then we incorporated that like 50 years after we got Alaska.
Well, yeah, any state that has a coast doesn't have straight line boundaries.
Because it has no boundaries.
It has a boundary. R. Oh, I love that.
He's done. He's got R in Google Earth. He's done.
I'm happy. I'm happy.
The civil chat was totally worth it.
All right. What we got next?
Okay, I was going to go with a question from Jackie. Jackie said, Is there a resource where I can find templates for section drawing styles and labels in metric?
I suppose so. If you go into CAD and you create a new drawing, I did open instead of new. You go create a new drawing and you go to the default location. There is one that comes with Civil 3D. See if I can remember where it is. Program data? Or is it program files? I can never remember.
Prefix or program data?
Yeah, I think it's program data. No.
You had content library.
I was looking for templates.
Oh.
Program files, Autodesk. I can't remember where it is. So we changed our default templates. Oh, that's right. It's under users. Thanks, Tom. Haley app data. That's where it is. Local. I think it's local. Autodesk, Civil 3D, menu, templates. All right, so if you go to the default template location, there is a metric template that comes with Civil 3D. That's the only one that I know of as far as resource goes. You might be able to pay somebody for theirs or ask somebody to give you their metric template or
Ian
go
says
buy one that somebody sells. But as far as just resources out there that I know of, I don't know of it.
Ian says you can download the UKIE country kit.
Yeah, so that's thanks, Ian. I'd forgotten about that. So yeah, there's a Civil 3D ships with doesn't ship with, but has available country kits. So the UK Ireland country kit, Ian says, has metric templates built into it. So that would be a good place to look. I'm sure some of the other European country kits have them too. I know there's an Australian one. I know that's not European, but that's the first one that came to mind. I know there's a Germany one. I think there's a Russian one. I'm English speaking, so I probably wouldn't go with either one of those. But that would be a great resource for it too as well. So that's all I got for that one.
Cool. And I think, Sean, I missed because I didn't scroll down, had a couple follow-ups. I'm assuming to the image one. He said you can assign local coordinates using the drawing settings. I'm wondering if that was back in Google Earth.
I don't know.
So do you still have your Google Earth?
Yeah, can you elaborate on that a little bit, Sean?
Yes, in Google Earth.
Yeah, you can still, yeah. So are you talking about the drawing settings here? Yeah, so yeah, you can totally say I'm not in a coordinate system. Right, no projection, no data. I mean, you're no longer in a state plane coordinate system, but you still have the same problem of bringing the image in and placing it wherever it needs to be. So I don't think this really helps that at all. But because now you're saying you're so before we were saying I've got this one thing that doesn't have a coordinate system and I needed to relate it to this one thing that does have a coordinate system. And now by changing this, we're saying I'm relating this one thing that doesn't have a coordinate system to another thing that doesn't have a coordinate system. So you're still in the same boat.
And as a non-civil engineer, I just say, close enough. And then we end up with jogs at the state lines.
Right.
So question from Sean, can you cover an example of Dynamo that you've used on one of your projects?
No.
Can you cover an example of Dynamo that somebody in your office has used on one of your projects?
No, we haven't used Dynamo at GEI yet. I haven't really found a situation where Dynamo would be like, oh, got to use Dynamo. Now, I know there are people on this meeting that use Dynamo fairly regularly. I believe Adam does. He might be have a better response to that. Adam, would you be willing to join us and talk about this or not? It's up to you, man. I'm not going to force you or anything.
What? While he's talking, we could go to the last question that's on there. When you XREF blocks from one drawing to another, what is your preference? Do you use annotative blocks or do you use scaled drawings to bring in blocks?
It depends upon the block. So, let's take, for example, a manhole. When you bring in a manhole into your drawing, what is it that you're trying to show? Are you trying to show that, hey, there's a manhole here? Or are you trying to show, hey, there's a manhole here, and this is the actual size of said manhole? So that's the question. what is it that you're trying to display? If you're just saying, hey, there's a manhole here, well, you're annotating the drawing in that case. So I would make that an annotative block. If you're saying, hey, here's this manhole and it's a 4-foot manhole, and I want it to show as a 4-foot manhole relative to the scale. So if I've got a really big scale, it's tiny on the piece of paper. If I zoom in, it gets bigger on the piece of paper. In that case, it would not be annotated because we're not annotating a manhole. We are modeling the manhole. So that's the difference between using annotative objects and non-annotative objects. Same thing goes for text, right? If you're putting text in the drawing, what's the purpose of the text? Is it annotation? Hey, this is going to be a school crossing, or is it actually part of the model? This is the school that's painted on the asphalt. Well, the school that's painted on the asphalt is the model, so it would not be annotative text. Whereas calling out, hey, this is a school crossing, is annotation. Yeah. Hope that makes sense.
Hope that answered your question, Sean. I did promote Adam.
Oh, great.
So if you stop sharing, I believe he'll be able to share. And his response was he only uses it right now for sheet work, but he can show something like that.
Do you have something you want to show, or do you just want to talk about it, Adam?
I can show my sheet set manager thing.
Let me switch back over to my Zoom. And stop share. There's a stop share button. All right, it's all on you, Adam.
Okay, you guys can see that, right?
Yep, we got it.
Yep. All right. So before you can do any of this, you'll need to use this package right here, the sheet set manager package that I published a year and a half ago. There's a couple versions, 2020.3.50 and 2021 are the only two up there. But these will work for any version as long as you have either 2020 or 2021 installed. But this is a graph that I use pretty regularly for setting up a sheet set for a project. Basically, I just take a path out of my project folder and just start extracting the information to build the internal structure of that project folder so that I can locate where I want to put my DST file. I build the DST file name based on the project folder. Path is then added to so that I can set all the defaults inside of it. So where I want to put each of my sheets, where my model views is going to be located at, several of the other options for where my templates are stored, my view labels for my details. Pretty much every setting in the sheet set file gets set in this big chunk of this script. And then because I'm using a series of, let's show this, a series of pre-built folders, but I wanted these to all have a name that was easier to read, that's different than the folder in the file structure. I have to then come through here and rebuild that out so that it relinks it properly. Because when it creates this, these are all still linked back to a different folder name. But normally this process takes like 20 minutes to make sure everything's set up right. And this is a one-click thing now.
Nice.
And
so just so I'm going to recap just to make sure that the way I understood it correctly. So basically what you do is when you run this script, it's going to ask you for a folder on your network. And I assume the folders are already set up with all of the subfolders already built into it, right?
Yes.
And then based off of that folder structure, it then builds out the sheet set manager for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Like this is our folder structure. It'll dump the sheet set file right here in the base. It'll add this folder into the model views so that we can see all the files in our models. And then all the subfolders in the sheets right here are relinked back to each one of these folders. So that
So when you go create a master plan drawing, so if you right click there and say, hey, I want to create a new sheet, that new drawing will be saved in that specific folder for that project. That's awesome.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
And then all the other settings inside of this are all pre-populated with all of our standard data. Even though that some of these should already be in there, I just repath them just to make sure.
So you're doing that through the Dynamo script and not through a template project or
well, the
template sheet set?
It's already in the template, but for some reason, sometimes they don't carry through. I don't know why, but I just rewrite them just to make sure.
Gotcha. Okay.
The only thing I don't write through is all of this massive amount of data we store in it.
So that all comes from the sheet set template?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't use all of it. That's just what we predefine for all of our stuff.
Right. Yeah. We do the same thing. We've got more in our sheet set template than typically is used on a project, just in case it needs to be used.
Yeah. So with all this set up, if you go to the Dynamo player, I have it listed here. All I have to do is hit the little edit inputs because I've set that browse button, and I'll just pick a folder. So if I come through here, pick a new project, since I actually need to set this one up anyway, I'll just click this and just click play. Sometimes I get an error, and it's usually because for whatever reason, the engine doesn't unlock the DST file. So if I come back and look, just double check that. Go away. Yeah, the DST lock is still there. I can just delete that and I'm done.
Would you be able to incorporate that into your Dynamo script? So if this is still there when it's done, delete it?
Not so easily. I'd have to, well, I could. Yeah. It's not going to use the sheet set. It's going to have to use some other nodes, but yeah, it's doable.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
And I don't know sheet set or Dynamo real well, but
yeah. Yeah, I was playing with it a lot when it first premiered for Civil, and then they weren't giving us a lot, so I built this package and I use it all the time because I'm a big sheet set person.
Right. So you're still on 2021. That's why your sheet set stuff doesn't work for 2022 yet.
Right.
Gotcha.
I've installed it on one machine. I just haven't done anything. We'll probably go to 23 and then I'll finish it out.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of companies will skip a year.
Yeah. But if anyone wants to play with that package, it does come with a number of scripts in the data too.
Now, is this something that you charge for? Or is this something that's available for free?
No, it's all available for free. So when you go through the manage packages, the search packages, when it's done syncing, all you need to do is type in the first three initials and it'll bring up the two packages I came up with. And you just install the latest one. When it installs, it'll install samples. They'll be in your roaming folder in the Dynamo packages of this, or the extras folder of this package.
Okay.
So that path right there.
Nice. Well done, man. Well done.
Mm-hmm. And those samples should cover all the different ways to use the sheetset manager.
Great.
Yeah.
So Brian, do you use Dynamo much in Revit?
I use it a little bit. I know a lot of people are all getting into doing a lot of crazy things with it. You know, like you always see a lot of people talking about making crazy model stuff, but for me, it's more doing things like Adam just showed. Like in the Revit side of things, in Revit, it's really bizarre. It'll know a lot of the data, but we can't see the data. It's like behind the scenes in the program. So you can extract that data through some sort of those other tools like that to get in there as you do it. And that's what I do it for. It's like, I can't tell you what the rating of the wall is that the door is hosted on. So I want to be able to know that in the door without having to look at the bulk properties. So, there's things like that I use it for, but I've not used to actually generate.
So basically what you're saying is it's turning Revit into this somewhat of like a BIM program then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of that in utilities that have things to do that. It's just so stupid in Revit. Like, it knows it, the data's there. It just doesn't display it to the users. It's so frustrating.
Right. Right. It looks like we're out of questions. So, hey, if you've got any questions, this is a great time to do it. We've got almost 10 minutes left. Sean posted up in the Q&A. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, Adam, definitely thank you for jumping in on that. I appreciate it as well.
And then the last thing I would say is Brian did record the last civil chat thing and put it on his YouTube channel. He is recording this one, and we'll see if it gets on the YouTube channel. So if you guys are like, man, wait, what was that? And you needed to actually pause and see what Adam just showed. Cool. Brian's going to have it posted up on his YouTube channel for you guys to go down and check out.
Yeah, so it's on my C3D Plus YouTube channel. So just look for C3D Plus and you should find it there. And yeah, I'm planning on posting them up there from here on out. I like the idea of recording these so people can go back and review them. Brian did the same thing for Revit Radio, and we were comparing sizes earlier. And,
oh, that didn't sound right.
Oh, yeah. The number of views is, I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. My bad.
Hey, Melissa and I have both viewed my video that nobody knows I have a YouTube channel on, and I never did.
Yeah, and I've gotten like 40 views, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, hey, I believe I'll be the first person doing today what's new in Revit 2023, since I'd already had Revit Radio scheduled and I just released it today. So
nice.
There you go. I'll be kind of showing some new features while we're in there.
Yeah, so we'll probably be doing the same thing at Civil Chat next month.
Yeah, I assumed. So you had two more questions pop up. One was, can you show off how your custom status bar works?
Your custom status bar works.
Or was that Adam?
Yeah, Joel, was that for me or was that for Adam?
And then what he's responding, Anonymous actually said, what is the weirdest civil abnormality you've ever encountered?
You mean other than smooth contours?
That's just what I was gonna say.
The weirdest civil abnormality I've ever encountered. I guess it depends upon what you mean by abnormality. Is this like an odd design that I had to model in Civil 3D, or is this like some weird result that I got while I was in Civil 3D? One thing that is really weird, let me share my screen again. And share, there we go. I'm just going to create a new drawing here. So let me draw a couple of feature lines in here. Come on. There we go. Let's see, feature line, create feature line. So I'll start here. And we'll make this, I don't know, 1,000 feet long. Something like that. And then I'm gonna do the same thing next to it. About the same. All right, let's go ahead and assign some grades to this. So I'll use a quick elevation editor here. I'll say, hey, I want to go up 2% from there, and I want to go up 2% from there. And so basically what I've got is I've got these two feature lines that are going up, starting at the same elevation and going up in opposite directions from themselves. So you can think of it as like this plane is going to be twisting as we go, along these lines. And so if I add these to a surface, let's just do it this way. This is kind of fun. If you simply have feature lines, you can always add to a surface as break lines if you select the feature lines. And since I don't have a surface, it's going to ask me to create one. And we'll go with the 1 foot contours here. There we go. All right. See, my mid-ordinate distance is 100. That works. And so you can see we get these really funky contours going through here. These sawtooth contours. right? This is just the way it is. If you're going to have, and if you're going to have two features that are side by side at different grades, the way the triangles work is you just end up with these really weird triangles. So if I go edit the styling and turn on the triangles, oops, display triangles. You can see it's bouncing back and forth between these. And because they're at different grades, it goes up and then changes grades as we go from triangle to triangle. And so that's just one of the consequences of having two lines at different grades. And so I think this might be one of the oddest things that people don't expect when they're dealing with Civil 3D stuff. So I hope that answers that question.
And then Jill did follow up your custom status work bars, the GEI status bar listed textiles, textiles, LT styles, etc.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. You can add all sorts of things to your status bar. It was set up this way when I got here, so I didn't mess around with this at all. But there's a system variable you can put things in. I think you can put like diesel expressions into it, I think is what they're referred to. But yeah, it's set up that way when I got here. At the last job where I was doing design, I became the default CAD manager because I was the engineer that knew the most about CAD when our CAD manager actually left. And one day when everybody got into work, there was a message down here that says Brian needs a raise. I thought it was funny.
I think it's funny.
So.
Did you get the raise?
Yeah, no, I didn't get the raise. I think I should get. So yeah, so question is there a fix for the weird grading lines? Change the data. We could try to smooth the surface. Let's try that. See what happens. We'll smooth the surface. We'll do it grid based. We'll do the entire surface since we're talking about smoothing the surface. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to do the entire surface. And I don't know, I'll do a 1 by 1. See how many points that adds. 167. Yeah, let's make it a 3 by 3. That's reasonable. 18,000. So yeah, there you go. Smooth the surface, not the contours, the surface. They're still gonna be jagged. They're just not gonna be as noticeable.
So let me understand that you smooth the contours, because that's where my muscle memory is going, because you keep showing me what not to do.
So if you smooth the surface, it looks a lot better. But I still, if I zoom in here though, maybe not so much. I did a good job. I figured they'd still be jagged along those lines, but I guess it might depend upon so I did 100-foot supplementing factor on the break lines, and I did a 3-foot grid. So yeah, it seems to have done a pretty good job.
And on that note, we're at the bottom of the hour. Somebody did ask, what's your YouTube channel? I did post a link to that in the chat. If Brian knows how to put it, he might actually put it in the comments of the YouTube channel, but then that means you're already there. So
right.
And so on that note, I think we need to call this one a day.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Oh, and please tell people about this. We don't advertise. We don't make money off of this. We don't have a budget for it. It's just us doing it. So let people know about it. And the more people that we have, the better questions we'll have, the better the whole experience will be for everybody.
Just don't tell them about the YouTube channel, because, Brian and I are comparing sizes, as he put it. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.